When I thought that I was going to have to protect Dr. Schwartz and Andre from each other, I didn't realize the crowd would be in the game here. I gathered that by now your reasoning abilities are activated, you are challenging, you are questioning, you are wondering where you should be thinking. Now is the section where I invite Dr. Saine to rebut the arguments of Dr. Schwartz, and then he will have 10 minutes to do so. Dr. Schwartz will then have his opportunity to provide his rebuttals. I invite you to write your questions on your index cards and pass them to the sides of the rows that you're sitting in. Ilana and her helpers will collect them and pass them forward, and I will select some of the questions and read them out. Please make them succinct. Address who they are to be written to, either one or both of the speakers. They will be asked to keep their answers fairly short so we can get through as many of them as we can. And please do not write questions about how should I treat my acne or eczema or other such questions of medical importance. Those you can address to me. I will now invite Andre to 10 minutes for a rebuttal of the arguments made by the opposition. Andre.
It depends. Oh, am I on? Am I on? Yeah. No? Yes. Yeah, okay. It depends if Joe wants to give me more time because you touched so many subjects. First of all, I agree with you that we have to, I'm against also the falling of naturopathic medicine. You say the basic science is better in medical school. I wrote my basic science in Oregon exam with standing beside the medical student. We had the same basic exam. It's a state exam. As in Oregon, I was a primary care practitioner, legalized by the state to report births, death, insurance company, state of health of the patient. I'm a physician in Oregon. We are physicians. Have you heard any great mortality from Oregon from the naturopathic physician? At my time, 70% of the people in Oregon that were consulted naturopathic physician had no allopathic physician during the 80s. Yeah, I agree with you. There's a wide spectrum of practitioner and with a wide areas of approaches that don't make sense. However, and that makes my third argument, that there's a need for public protection and it should be regulated. You talk about hydrotherapy. I did write not a textbook, a book on hydrotherapy. And I didn't bring any slide tonight. I have about 8 hours of lecture, but I didn't put on hydrotherapy. I'm very surprised you brought it up. But I could tell you that just by memory, in New York, what was his name? I forgot now. It will come back. He treated during the turn of the century, during a typhoid epidemic, and they compared the result with allopathy, homeopathy, osteopathy, and hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy had a zero mortality when the patient was brought to the hospital before the third day of the typhoid fever, and about 2.5%, if I remember, after the third day of the disease, when they were more advanced, because in a week you pass away with typhoid fever. This never been happened in medicine. Today in modern medicine, it's 12% death rate about in advanced case of typhoid fever, or probably higher. I would have to check, but I didn't prepare on this. However, just be aware that if I know you would have to talk about it, I would have put a lot of nice slides for you. A naturopathic physician or a graduate are given the opportunity to do a residency, a 1 or 2 year residency. In terms of the water diet, it's not water diet, it's water fasting. That's abstinence from food except water. In terms of the acid alkaline diet, you have to agree that if you eat a food that is acid producing, the body will have to neutralize it. So it's called acid producing diet because it produces acid. Protein become amino acid. And it's acid, and the body has to neutralize it with calcium. Therefore,
not all amino acids are acids.
But if you eat a high protein diet, you will use your calcium, and it will increase osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is the highest the diet in protein, the highest is the level of osteoporosis in the world. Look at all this epidemiology. Okay, so shall we talk about homeopathy, or I could talk about we can skip it. I could skip it. I could talk about the approach that we have towards toxemia, because you touch about toxemia like you didn't touch really. Okay, I have fever phobia. I could talk about nutrition in medical school. I'll say just a little something about this. I won't go over in detail about it. However, just be aware that appeal for improved nutrition teaching in medical schools started in 1902. There was a commission by the American Medical Association in 82. And then in the 80s, it says it's not happening. So the National, not National Institute of Health, it's the National Council of Science in the United States, said medical schools should teach about 25 hours of clinical nutrition to their student. In 91, it's not happening. So they say, it's time to teach nutrition to medical students. And it goes on and on and on and on. And today there's about maybe 17 to 20% of medical school, I have all the statistics but not in my head, that are teaching more than 17, that will teach more than 25 hours of clinical nutrition. Actually, it went up as there was a recommendation to do it, and it's going down with the year because everybody's competing for training the student. But, you know, one of the things that I would like to address is the aspect of science, that naturopathic medicine is not scientific, and that's why it's not taught in medical school. I would agree with you that you do teach. You say you don't teach alternative medicine. I don't agree with you. You do teach alternative medicine, alternative to common sense medicine. What you teach here doesn't make sense. It's not scientific, and I'll show you. I'll take a few minutes to show you that. Let's see if we could find it.
So while Andre's looking for his slide, just a reminder, we'll pick up the questions at the end. You don't have to bring them up. Just leave them at the end, and someone will come along and pick up the questions.
Okay. Conventional medicine is likely the greatest delusion of modern times. You notice I crossed likely. Let's look at the definition of quackery. Quackery is commonly defined, you should know about that, as the use of unproven treatment by individual or companies who claim fantastic results and who charge large sums of money. About 70 to 80% of total global biomedical research and development is sponsored by the U.S. public sector, U.S.-based foundation, and U.S. headquartered corporation. In other words, the United States is the leader in modern medicine, the global leader. Main reason not to say that modern medicine is not scientific and is the greatest delusion. First, iatrogenic disease are a leading cause of death in an era dominated by conventional medicine. There was a report, a calculation made by Dr. Null and Dr. Dean on death of medicine. They made this in 2005 on a report from 2003. They say something is wrong when regularly agencies pretend that vitamins are dangerous, yet in your published statistics showing that government-sanctioned medicine is the real hazard. The most stunning statistic, however, is that of total number of deaths caused by conventional medicine is an astounding 783,000 people. It is now evident that the American medical system is the leading cause of death and injury in the United States. By contrast, the number of deaths attributable to heart disease in 2001 was 700,000. So here you see the tabulation of the 780,000, and here are all the reference and the cost. I won't go in detail into that. The second reason is no study have shown that mortality increased during physician strike compared to other time period. On the contrary, all reports that mortality either stayed the same or decreased during the strike. 3, Americans spend more than 50% per person than Europeans on health care, while at the same time, life expectancy has been declining significantly in the last few decades in many regions of the United States. At the same time, Americans consume 37% of all pharmaceutical products sold, while representing only 4% of the world population, or 3 times more drugs per person compared to other countries while similar standard of living. Fourth, for the last 10 years, the United States has ranked between 41st and 49th in having the lowest infant mortality in the world. It ranked 28 2 decades ago. Look, it's going up. In other words, they're going away from, as compared to other countries. Fifth, disease mongering. There's a lot of money to be made by pharmaceutical industry in selling sickness. 6, The estimated half-life of truth for clinical statement in surgical literature is 45 years, Lancet 1997. It takes 50 years to get a wrong idea out of medicine, and 100 years a right one into medicine, Lancet 1997. General lack of efficiency of conventional medicine. From the British Medical Journal, Clinical Evidence. It says, what conclusion has clinical evidence drawn about the work? What doesn't base or randomized controlled trial evidence? So let's see. It shows here that 11% of medical treatment are beneficial. 23% are likely to be beneficial. 7% trade off between benefit and harms. 6% unlikely to be beneficial, 3% likely to be ineffective or harmful, and 50% is unknown effectiveness. Where's the science? Where's the science here? Ninth, the greater the financial and other interest and prejudice in scientific field, the less likely the research findings are to be true. 10th, medical journal are an extension of the marketing arm of pharmaceutical company. I didn't say that. It's a quote. It's a title of an article. 11, pharmaceutical companies to get the result they want from clinical trial. 12, antimicrobial resistance, a deadly burden no country can afford to ignore. Canadian Community Disease Report, 2003. 13, pollution of our waterways. 14, because of all the medication, the steroids, the antibiotic. 14, I will just finish with this. Rapidly escalating air care costs are crushing family, business, and government budget. President Obama in 2009. It's crushing government budget, family, and community business budget. It's imploding. The whole system is imploding. And you call that science? I need an answer, Doctor of Science.
There you go. 10 minutes from Dr. Saine. How do you respond, Dr. Schwarz? You have 10 minutes.
I thought that the last miracle that occurred was in 1980 when the U.S. beat the Russians in Lake Placid Olympics. But it seems I'm wrong. Miracle is happening right here. Naturopathy is the answer to everything. I don't know why we even bother to teach our alternative medicine, as you call it, which is what we teach here. Yeah, good question, you say. Let me give you a little bit of a background of who it is that we teach it to, which I know a little bit about because I happen to sit on the admissions committee. The requirements to get into medical school are unbelievably stringent. We really end up with the cream of the crop. We really do. So we must be doing something wrong to make them go astray and do nothing but kill people by giving them medications, by withholding hydrotherapy, by using antihypertensive drugs. So surely there must be something wrong with what we're doing. How can all of these smart kids, the absolute cream of the crop, our incoming class this year, their grade point average is about 3.9. How can they all go astray, right? Why are they not going into naturopathy? Pardon? It's easier to memorize than to think, right? Right. Okay. Let's talk about thinking. As I told you, I see a lot of naturopaths for various reasons, talk to them, get stuff from them. Here is one, homeopathic, it says on it, made by Homeocan, breast enlarger. Homeopathic breast enlarger. This is a cup that has magnets in it. You pour your water in it to magnetize the water, to change its molecular structure so that it combats the polluted water that we drink. Science. That's actually the cup where I stored my pesticide to put on my plant. I purchased this from a naturopath, $125 last summer, when they had a big health show here. It diagnoses disease. But it's okay because she also sold me the cure.
Breast enlarger.
It's the pendulum. And it will rotate in the appropriate direction to affect the cure. I'm sure many of you know the ideomotor response. And I hope that most of you would agree that that kind of thing is quackery. What? I hope none of you do that, but I'm telling you that I bought that from a naturopath. You have to tell me what you do. I'm telling you what I bought from the naturopath.
Okay, please let's
Yeah.
Dr. Schwarz finish his argument. He has 10 minutes.
But there's another one that is available much more cheaply. This one I paid $80 for. This one I paid, I think, $3 for. It's a bird whistle, but it works the same way. And in fact, when I brought it to her and asked her to do the usual thing, she said she agreed that it worked as well as the one that she was selling. So what I realize that many of you don't, most of you, I would hope, don't use anything like this. But the reason that I bring this up is because this is happening out there. If you want legitimacy, you need to clean house. You need to get rid of this kind of stuff, because this is being done in the name of naturopathy. Every single one of these devices I purchased from a naturopath who had graduated from the college of one of the colleges of naturopathy. So, I mean, that needs... No. You're sorry? Well, I'm telling you. I mean, what you're calling...
Guys,
what?
Please let Dr. Schwarz say. I understand that you're getting emotional. Let's
Yeah.
just let Dr. Schwarz finish.
Are you telling me that
This
it's
is a
not
debate.
true that that's who I bought it from?
You address your questions to the chair through the papers on your page, please. Otherwise, we just lose all sense of decency.
I think that many of you are just not aware of what is going on out there and of what is being done in the name of naturopathy. Okay, let me get back to some of the other things that were discussed. Hydrotherapy has a long history, and it certainly works for many conditions because it's a nice relaxation therapy. But to claim that you can cure all diseases by hydrotherapy is just not scientifically sound. John Harvey Kellogg, way back in the late 1800s, was one of the first ones to introduce hydrotherapy. And he's a very, very good example of both the pluses and the cons. He had some very good ideas about diet, about gravitating people towards a more vegetarian-oriented diet. Of course, diet was horrific in America back in the 1800s, just as is today. But that was together with the hydrotherapy. So, I mean, what was doing the good? I suspect that it was the diet and the exercise and the adhesion to another Latin dictum, which was semper ubi sub ubi. And those of you who remember your Latin will know what it means. Always wear underwear. Believe it or not, this was one of Kellogg's dictum, because in those days, people did not change their undergarments all the time. When you went to the San, which was the original naturopathic emporium, you had to change your underwear every day, and that cut down on infections. So there were legitimate things that were done to hand in hand with some total nonsense. You have to get rid of the nonsense and stick to just the legitimate things. Now, all of the data about iatrogenic diseases and all of this, nobody contests this. I mean, we are very well aware of that and trying to fight that. I mean, don't you think that C. diff in the hospital is a scourge and that we're trying everything to counteract that? Don't you think that we have a big issue with the overuse of antibiotics? Of course there is. And this is something that is being considered all the time in scientific medicine. It's not being swept under the carpet. You are absolutely right that some of the that the pharmaceutical influence has been too great in the past. This is being addressed as well. You know that in none of our McGill teaching hospitals now are pharmaceutical companies even allowed to sponsor lunches or seminars. So, I mean, of course there are problems, but they're being corrected. And this is, what I've mentioned so many times, that in scientific medicine or conventional medicine, as we teach it, it's self-correcting. When you find something wrong, you try to do your best to correct it. It isn't easy because the human machine, the human body, is the most complex machine on the face of the earth. There are no simple solutions here, but of course we try to correct it. However, when you take a look at things like homeopathy, there has been no correction. Still living by the wisdom of Samuel Hahnemann 200 years ago. Okay, we can go to questions.
Okay, thank you, Joe Schwarz. Taking on not only André Saine, but also many of you in the crowd. I think, I believe, nope. Now the next section of the debate is a 1-minute cross-examination. Okay. So you will have a minute to ask Dr. Schwarz a question. Dr. Schwarz will have a minute to ask you a question. You have a minute each to respond. This is going to be rapid fire. I want the questions to be short and succinct, and perhaps you can pull some questions out from the audience that we heard being voiced during Dr. Schwarz. We have 10 minutes for this section, and while we're doing that, please, questions on the cards to the side so that we can filter through. I have quite a number here already. Please keep the questions brief. Large pages of text. This is both-sided. This one, I'm afraid, will probably get weeded out. Please keep the questions short and succinct. And the same for you. I will ask you, André, to please begin your question. You have 1 minute. Your question for Dr. Schwarz.
Okay, Joe. I assume that, I assume that you have read or consulted anyway Simon Baruch textbook of hydrotherapy, where he mentioned his results that were published in journals. They were verified. They were never negated. His great result, the best in the history of medicine in patients with typhoid fever. I assume you consulted. If not, you can come to my library, and I'm sure McGill has a copy of Simon Baruch textbook of hydrotherapy. Did you?
No.
Okay.
Was that a question?
Yeah, that was
your question.
Yeah.
Okay. You have one minute to ask your question.
Would you feel comfortable as a primary care physician that you can diagnose all diseases that would require the patient to be sent to a physician?
Scientifically impossible. You need a whole team of people to diagnose. It's complicated to understand the cause and effect of diseases. Patients coming like a laboratory. So I have, as a basic physician, I can see if I need the help of a specialist. When I was in Oregon, I would refer to a cardiologist, a neurologist. I want a second opinion. I want a CAT scan. I want an MRI. Yes, we need many diagnostic approach to find out what are the cause of disease and what are the effect of disease. However, beware, the naturopathic physician make a diagnostic approach different than a medical doctor. We're looking at an allopathic doctor. We're looking at the fundamental cause of disease, not just the symptom, the fundamental cause of disease. Once we have discovered the fundamental disease, that's where we're going to deal with our effort, not on the symptom. Completely different ball game.
But
that's why it takes me 3 hours to take a first intake of a patient, because I want to know the history of the patient. I want to know the patient from inside out, and then the outcome is beautiful.
But what makes you think? What makes you think that conventional physicians are not interested in finding out the cause of disease?
I don't see it in medical journal. I don't see it in the literature. I don't see it in the practice. I see my patient coming and says, "Did the doctor?" I had a patient last week that came to me. He was taking 14 medication because he had asthma and he was diagnosed with diabetes. 14 medications. He says, did the physician ask you to change your nutrition? He says, decrease my sugar. That's it? Decrease your sugar? Yes, he said. Nothing else? Nothing else. I said, something is wrong there. He was told for 3 years, twice a year he was told, you are pre-diabetic. You're pre-diabetic. Were you told to change something? No, just cut your sugar. But when you're diabetic, we'll put you on medication. The medication created a complication. You almost die of a severe hemorrhage of the stomach.
Okay, hopefully that was not a McGill physician, because I can tell you...
It was a Montreal physician. Montreal physician.
Well, I can tell you that this is not what they are taught. Okay, when we teach them about diabetes, diet is absolutely the first line therapy, without question. That's what we teach.
Okay.
So,
how many of the patients?
Can you let him respond? Yeah. Thank you. Have you finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the outcome from the graduate of McGill with patient with diabetes type 2? What is the outcome? How many patients are on medication and how many patients are completely free of medication for the rest of their life? That I would like to know.
Very few. Are you telling me that you can treat diabetics, type 2 diabetics, and make them drug-free for the rest of their life and get their sugar below 7?
I demonstrated in the study with the fasting. In the second study, they took patient with hypertension and diabetes. It's easy. It's easy if you change your lifestyle. Very easy. The moment they lose weight, the moment they start to be more sensitive to the insulin in their body, the moment they lose weight, they change their diet.
Don't you think that the first thing that a conventional physician tells an overweight patient is to lose weight?
It's not just changing. You have to convince the patient that if they do it, it will be successful first. You have to believe in it. So I believe in it because I've seen it.
Yes, but this is not particular to naturopathy.
Pardon?
I mean, this is not particular to naturopathy.
No, but we do it.
I mean,
we do it.
You know,
and we do it. Not only we do it, but we do it successfully, and we can prove it.
Yes,
it's in the literature. It's in the literature.
Listen, this is one of the problems with naturopathy, is that it hijacks things that actually are part of conventional medicine and pretends that they're not.
Listen, it's nothing to do with hijacking. It's nothing to do. I define naturopathic medicine as the best of modern science. The best of modern science with the wisdom of traditional medicine. The wisdom with the science makes the best recipe. Modern medicine, the problem with modern medicine, it has no philosophy. There was a book written a few years ago from people from Harvard and France. The title of the book was Introduction for Philosophy of Medicine. And in the beginning of the chapter, they say, we're writing this book because modern medicine has no philosophy. There's a lack of philosophy. You don't know where you're going. If you're going to change, you have to change from the bottom up, not here and there.
I think the problem is in education. I think without having seen and having gone through what our students go through, the depth of education in every possible area, the expertise that they get, the clinical experience. You said clinical experience in naturopathy in a naturopathic clinic. They don't go into a hospital.
Yes,
right?
we do in a hospital.
In a hospital?
Sure. We train
Which
in a hospital? In Southwest College, I have a privilege with different university hospitals in Tempe, Arizona.
I can tell you that the Canadian College of Naturopathy has no hospital affiliation.
I cannot talk for the Canadian College, but I know for most naturopathic colleges, I have access to Yale in Connecticut. There's many different hospitals.
And you say that we don't teach nutrition. We teach nutrition in second year in unbelievable depth. In fact, in so much depth that it becomes confusing, to tell you the truth.
There's a student here from McGill that I talked to a couple of days ago. Said, how many hours of clinical nutrition have you had? He's third year student. He says, I had 6 hours of clinical nutrition. I asked another student from 3 students from the University of Montreal, or third and fourth year medicals. They say, we had also 6 hours of clinical nutrition.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by clinical nutrition. I mean,
not protein and carbohydrate, not biochemistry.
No. Diseases as they are linked to nutrition.
She had a class of it's called nutrition and gastroenterology pathology. That's not clinical nutrition. That's to recognize deficiency disease, yes, but not how to apply clinically.
What are you calling clinical nutrition?
Clinical nutrition, a patient comes to you with a certain condition that is related to lifestyle and nutrition, and to be able to use your knowledge of nutrition and lifestyle to turn the patient around for the rest of their life so they're not sick anymore. They're not pre-diabetic. They don't go, we don't watch until we have to give them any medication. They stop being pre-diabetic. The hypertension goes down. The risk of cardiovascular disease is erased. And the chance of cancer goes down automatically. As soon as the lifestyle change, everything improves. That's why we say it's holistic in that sense.
And why do we not have peer-reviewed publications on all of these miracles?
There is. You're not looking at them. There are.
Well,
Joe, if you want, I have 8 hours of lecture here. If you want, you invite me to your class on any of the subject you want, and I'll show you peer-reviewed journal article on diabetes, how to deal with it scientifically, successfully, permanently, and at very low cost.